After mobilisation of the Astra Militarum regiment called the Mobile Infantry and heavy fighting on the planet of Pandathu, we have managed to capture several of the enemy ArachNIDs to study. These creatures are perfectly adapted for fighting our forces. They seem to be one step ahead of every tactical move the Mobile Infantry have been making. It seems like there's some kind of intelligence leading them.
Frankly, I find the idea of a
Tyranid
that thinks offensive.
Hello, and welcome to Drunk on Tea. Today I'm going to paint a Tyranid Hormagaunt inspired by the colour scheme of the bugs from Starship Troopers. As you can see, I've primed the model black, as this will give us a nice, even, smooth base coat for the rest of our colours to work from. Now the first step is to come in with some Corvus black, and we're going to paint this all over the model. I know we're painting black over black, but Corvus black is a much lighter shade of black and will allow us to add some shades to the model to really add definition all over the regions of black. So just make sure you cover all of the model with a coat of Corvus black so we get that lighter black colour all over the model, and we can start painting the rest of the patterns of the Arachnid. Now obviously these models don't look anything like the bugs from the film, but the paint scheme will be inspired and really give us that feel of the Arachnids from the Starship Troopers movie, but over a Tyranid model. So with that Corvus black applied, you can see it's a slightly lighter shade of black all over the model. And now we can start dry brushing the model to add some definition to this black. So first of all, I'm coming in with some Storm Vermin Fur, and I'm going to dry brush this all over the model to really bring out some of the details on the model, add some definition all over it, and accentuate all of the race points without us needing to come back later and edge highlight the entire model. You don't want to be too heavy with this dry brush. You want to keep a lot of the Corvus black still showing. You want to make sure you catch all the raised details and add interest all over the model with a dry brush of Storm Vermin Fur. With that Storm Vermin Fur applied, you can see it's picked out all of the details on the model and added interest, especially over that carapace armour. So I'm going to come in with a much lighter dry brush now of Dawnstone, and with this you want to dry brush all over the model, but make sure it's a much lighter dry brush, so you're just catching the most raised areas, the most prominent details with a very light dry brush of Dawnstone, just to add a little bit more interest, some of the sharpest points on the model. And with that Dawnstone applied, that's all the black details highlighted for now. We will add a few more details later on. Now it's time to start painting the pattern on the model. So that first of all, I'm coming in with some corn red. I'm going to apply this to some areas on the top of the model. So on the carapace armour here, I'm applying some patches of red, but leaving any of the spines and spikes black. So just apply some areas of corn red in a sort of natural pattern going down the back of the carapace armour. Don't want this to be too blocky or have sharp angles because this is supposed to be a natural animal pattern. So by applying this a little bit scratchy, some rough kind of patterns, you'll get that natural look, and it will build up variation if you paint this across several models in your army. See here I'm coming all the way down the tail with corn red as well, just catching the top edge with some corn red. I'm also going to apply this to any of the parts of the carapace on the legs as well, and the tops of any of the claws on the model as well. I'm catching the top edges with some corn red. Basically all of the upper surface to the model, I want to catch this with a little bit of corn red. And I also want to catch these raised areas here around his eyes as well. So make sure I catch these areas with a little bit of corn red as well, just to add some interest to the face of the model. So be nice and neat, try not to get this over any of the areas of black. Just catch these raised details with a little bit of corn red. And with that corn red applied, it's already added a burst of colour onto the top of the model. Now it's time to paint the yellow markings on the underside of the model. So for this, I'm coming in with Avalanche Sunset. I'm going to apply it as a stripy pattern all over the lower parts of the model. So here on the rib cage, it's nice and easy. Just pick out the raised ribs with a little bit of Avalanche Sunset. Be nice and careful around those recesses. And in other parts of the model, I'm just going to apply some tiger stripe style lines all along the body of the Tyranid. So these don't need to be regular sizes, regular shapes, or anything like that, and keep it irregular and natural looking. I'm just applying these stripes all along the body of the Tyranid. You can apply them a little bit rough at first with the Avalanche Sunset, and you can come back in and tidy them up with a second coat after. Just apply them going up the body. And whenever you get to areas here like these holes in his tail, I'm leaving the hole black. I'm going to paint the yellow stripe going around it, so it'll really highlight the edge of the holes and the details on the body. I'm also going to follow this pattern going down his leg and his arms as well, keeping these as irregular sizes, irregular shapes, just sort of painting that tiger stripe pattern going across all of the underside to his body. So here on his legs, you can see I'm painting what would be the lower parts yellow, but I'm making sure that the lines stop just before they reach the top of the leg. So they're not yellow bands going all the way across, they are just stripes going up the body. And on the face here, I'm picking out these raised details around the face, going up to that part we painted red, picking that out with a little bit of Avalanche Sunset. I'm also going to do this on any of the raised parts of the jaw to keep that stripy pattern carrying through all the way across the model. And then finally, on any of the claws and spikes, and once again, paint a bit of Avalanche Sunset at the lower part of each of these, so we keep that pattern going across the weapons as well. And with that Avalanche Sunset applied, we've got that stripy pattern all over the model, really giving it that appearance of the bugs from the Starship Troopers movies. With that applied, now it's time to start shading the model. So first of all, with some known oil, going to come in and I'm going to shade all the areas we painted black and red, but avoiding any of the areas we painted with Avalanche Sunset. So here you can see on the arm, I'm coming in avoiding those bits of Avalanche Sunset, but I'm shading the rest of it with a little bit of known oil, which will sink into the recesses and add some definition to all of those areas, as well as darkening down our dry brush highlight a little bbit. So just make sure you cap all of the black areas with a shade of known oil, but being careful around the Avalanche Sunset, because we'll be coming back in a minute and shading that with a different colour. And now with some Reichland Flesh Shade, I'm going to come in and shade all the areas we painted with Avalanche Sunset. Try to be nice and neat, avoid getting this over any of the areas we shaded with known oil. And just catch all of these areas of Avalanche Sunset with a shade of Reichland Flesh Shade. This will help give that yellow areas that sort of orangey appearance that parts of the yellow have on the bugs in the movie, as well as adding definition to any of the details on the skin.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
If you're enjoying the video, please press like. If you want more videos, press the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. If you would like to support the channel and become a member, please press the join button down below. And now that those shades have dried, you can see they've darkened down those areas of the model, as well as added definition into all the recesses of the model. So now it's time to start highlighting. So first of all, I'm coming in with some corn red again. And I'm going to apply this to some scratchy highlights on the areas that we painted with corn red. So on areas here, like the carapace, I'm coming into the area we already painted, leaving a little bit of that darker shaded corn red at the edges. Applying some scratchy kind of lines, the fresh corn red to brighten the area up, as well as adding texture and natural pattern to those areas of red. On the weapons here, I'm sort of doing downward scratchy patterns from the top, and on these parts around the eyes, I'm just catching the most raised parts where the shade didn't settle and bringing those back up to their original colour. And with that corn red reapplied, you can see it's brightened up some of those areas of carapace armour and added that texture effect all over the red details. So now with some Mephiston red, I'm going to come in and apply this on the areas around the eyes, once again focusing onto the most raised parts, helping to brighten those up and add some interest to these areas around the eyes. And that Mephiston red applied, it's made the eye detail stand out a little bit more and really draw focus to the face of the model. So now with some Evil Sun Scarlet, I'm going to come in and apply scratchy highlight again onto the carapace where we applied that corn red before, just to really build up that texture and scratchy effect. I'm also going to keep this pattern going onto the rest of the areas that we paint with corn red. By doing this, you should allow a bit of the shaded corn red, the corn red, and the Evil Sun Scarlet to show through. I'm also applying a little bit of this onto the most raised details around the eyes as well, to really brighten these areas up and make them stand out. And finally, on the weapons, I'm going to apply an edge highlight of Evil Sun Scarlet along the top of the weapon, as well as a few scratchy lines coming down, just to add some interest all over those blades. And with that Evil Sun Scarlet applied, since we really brightened up and added interest to all of those areas of corn red. So now finally, there's one last highlight to apply to the red areas, and that's with a little bit of Wild Rider red. I'm just going to apply some very small scratch highlights right at the very bottom of all the areas of carapace armour. So just add a little bit more detail, really add interest to all these areas of carapace. Keep these lines nice and small, just at the very bottom of each of the armour panels. And once that's applied, that's all the red areas highlighted. So now it's time to start highlighting the yellow stripes on the model. So for these to start with, I'm coming back in with Avalan Sunset again. And wherever the shade didn't settle, I'm coming in and applying a little bit of Avalan Sunset to bring these areas back up to colour. But I'm also going to leave a little bit of the shaded yellow showing around at the sides of each of these stripes, so it'll give it that slightly orange appearance that you see on the yellow striping on the bugs in the film. So just work your way back around the stripes. Wherever the shade didn't settle, come in on either side with a bit of Avalanche Sunset and bring these areas back up to colour. Remember to let that shade show through as well, to really add that natural appearance to all of these stripes. So you can see here on the head, I'm leaving a little bit showing around the edges of this Avalanche Sunset, but I'm bringing the rest of it back up to colour with a fresh layer of Avalanche Sunset to brighten this area back up. And on the weapons, I'm applying scratchy highlights again, coming down the blades, much like we did with the red on the top half. And with that Avalanche Sunset applied, and it's brightened up those stripes, really made them stand out again against the black. So now with some Uriel yellow, I'm going to come in and apply a highlight on some of these areas of yellow. So wherever they've gone around a bit of detail or raised edge, I'm applying a little bit of Uriel yellow. I'm also applying a bit around the edge where we let that shade stay on all of the stripes. So I'm just coming back in, and on each of the stripes I'm just applying a little bit of Uriel yellow as an edge highlight between all the different shades of yellow. Keep these lines nice and small, just make sure you catch every stripe with a really thin highlight of Uriel yellow. This colour dries a lot softer than when it goes on wet. Don't worry about the fact this edge highlight makes it look really stark. Once it dries, it's much more subtle and just really shows that definition between the two different shades of yellow. It just helps show that difference between the shaded yellow and the pure Avalanche Sunset. Just make sure you edge highlight any of the details. Just catch all the stripes with a bit of Uriel yellow. And for the weapons, I'm once again just doing some very small scratchy lines on the very edge of the weapon, just to highlight these as well. And with that Uriel yellow applied, that's all the yellow highlighted. The bug's really starting to come together now. It's just a few more details left to catch. So the first of those will be its eyes, which I'm coming in with Abaddon Black first. I'm just going to apply this into the recesses of the eye socket, being nice and careful around all the areas we've already painted. And then with a little bit of white scar, I'm just going to come in and apply a thin line just to add some interest to these eyes and add a focal point to the model. And with those eyes painted, the only thing left to do now is to apply an edge highlight to some of the carapace armour, just to make it pop. So for this, I'm coming in with some Karak stone. I'm just going to apply a thin edge highlight to all the raised points of the carapace armour, avoiding areas where we've painted it red. It's going to make sure I catch every plate of carapace armour with a thin edge highlight of Karak stone. This will make these armour plates to stand out a little bit and add some distinction between these and the rest of the body to the model. For these little ones here, I'm just using the side of my brush just to catch the very edges with a little bit of Karak stone. Also at this stage, you can use Karak stone to catch the teeth. Just be nice and careful and just catch each of the teeth with a thin line of Karak stone.
Paint.
And with that Karak stone applied, that is how to paint a Tyranid in the style of the bugs from the Starship Troopers movie. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below, are there any Warhammer 40,000 crossovers with any other film franchises you would like to see me paint a model in the style of? But thank you very much for watching, and happy painting!